Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here, and I'm back with another review. And this time I saw right there S.W.A.T. And this is a Mill Creek 3 disc set, 9 movies, as per usual. I'll get to that in a second. S.W.A.T. is an action thriller film directed by Clark Johnson from 2003, and it stars Colin Farrell, Michelle Rodriguez, LL Cool J, Samuel L. Jackson, Josh Charles, Jeremy Renner, and Olivia Martinez. In this film, Hondo Harrelson recruits Jim Street to join an elite unit of the Los Angeles Police Department. Together, they seek out more members, including tough Deke K and single mom Chris Sanchez. The team's first big assignment is to escort crime boss Alex Montel to prison. It seems routine, but when Montel offers a huge reward to anyone who can break him free, criminals of various stripes step up for the prize. So, what did I think of S.W.A.T? I was actually looking forward to this, hoping that it would be like some hidden gem, but without a couple specific scenes and certain bits of how the film was made, I would genuinely say this was barely watchable because, well, it's just so dull in so many places. And I was like, from the trailer, I was like, okay, maybe this will just be a super fun, high octane action movie, old fashioned, and it really isn't. And is the PG-13 rating to blame? Maybe. Neither of the sequels have a PG-13 rating, and I'm looking forward to those still. I'm going to watch those. And something else is kind of special, I guess. But yeah, it's just barely decent for me. Again, if people love this movie, good on you. Personally, I don't get it. Let me get to the cast so I can actually get into this. Colin Farrell plays Jim Street. He's kind of disgraced. He pulled a bit of a stunt to save people before yada yada yada. Taking your badge, that kind of thing happened. Colin Farrell's a great actor. I think he does the best he can with this character, but he's really given not much to do, like character-wise, like character moments. There's really not much. It's a big issue I have with this film. Michelle Rodriguez plays Chris Sanchez. She's a single mom. That's about all you learn about her. I was really disappointed with how they misused her. Like, she barely does anything. Like, she's technically a part of the unit, and I guess she shoots a couple of guys, but I was expecting more of a team-based movie where they each, like, complemented each other with like, a certain skill that they each had, and I still like Michelle Rodriguez. This isn't gonna make me hate her. I think it's just bad writing for that. Like, or just shaky writing. LL Cool J is the same as Deke K. He's a tough guy. I like LL Cool J. His acting is not the issue, neither is Michelle Rodriguez's. It's just they're not given much to do, even though they're two of this 4-person group. You'd think in a 4-person group within a 4-hour runtime, or excuse me, 2-hour runtime, excuse me there, you'd think they'd be able to set something up, but they really just don't. Samuel Jackson plays Sergeant Dan Hondo Harrelson. This is a character that was in the original TV series, I think, but he's now black. Whatever. I don't mind Samuel Jackson as an actor. I really don't. But here he just seems to be on autopilot. He doesn't really have any moments of standout acting. Usually in his best roles, there's something about his character that's like super interesting, and there really isn't much here. He's just, oh, he's a badass. But he really doesn't do a lot anyway. Josh Charles plays TJ McCabe. He's fine. I don't know a ton about Josh Charles. Jeremy Renner is decent enough as Brian Gamble, a former partner of Colin Farrell's character, and Olivia Martinez plays Alex Montel as the villain. And the villain is really kind of a non-entity here, and I think in a movie like this that's like very obviously going for a bit of an over-the-top feel, a bit, and I'll get to that. It doesn't quite hit what it should have done, which, like, I know Olivia Martinez can play a good villain. I've seen him play a great villain before. It's just this one is kind of bland, and that's a big issue I have with this movie. It's very mediocre in a lot of aspects. The characters don't really have much to distinguish themselves from each other. It's like the people who will shit on direct-to-video movies, at least those, to an extent, like if they get a female action star, they'll actually give her something to do. Like Cynthia Rothrock movies back in the 80s and 90s. She would kick ass. She'd do her shit. Even though she didn't star mostly in most of the movies she did in America, she didn't star in them. Martial Law 1 and 2, she wasn't the main star. Rage and Honor 1 and 2, she wasn't the main star. She was with someone else. Richard Norton. Yeah. Fast Getaway 1 and 2, her and Corey Haim. But even when she wasn't the main character, she got something to do. She used her martial arts. She got a weapon. Oh yeah, Tiger Claw 1 through 3, even though she's barely in 3. Tiger Claw 1 and 2, she gets to kick ass. She has multiple scenes of pretty damn well done fight scenes. Almost never does Cynthia Rothrock not do a great fight scene. It's usually up to the director and them knowing how to use her accurately, or to the best of her ability. But with a movie like this, Michelle Rodriguez, last thing I saw her in was The Assignment. I rewatched it. I would definitely watch that over this because, one, it's not nearly as long. This movie did not need to be 2 hours long. That seems to be a trend with Hollywood action movies. They seem to be like 30 minutes too long. Michelle Rodriguez can play the tough girl. She really can. She worked in The Assignment for me. A lot of people hate the voice. I understand what they were trying to do with that, and it never bothered me. It took a little getting used to the first time I watched the movie, but as I kept watching it and thinking more and more about, like, actual trans people's, like, you know, how they function differently after transitioning and everything, I was like, okay, I can see what the director and Michelle Rodriguez were trying to do. In this, she's a nothing character that all you learn about her is that she's, I think, a single mom, and Colin Farrell's character goes over to her daughter's birthday party. That's about all you learn about her. Like, and LL Cool J, you don't learn shit about his home life. All you see of his home life is he's in the grocery store with his kids, and the kids are asking him to buy something, and he buys it for them, and then he gets called into duty. So, like, that's a big thing here, is I have no real reason to root for these characters. Even though I don't hate the characters, I have no real reason to root for them because you've given me nothing to latch on to. Now, if this movie didn't pretend to have, like, deeper stuff to it, like, oh, we've got all these super complex relationships, then I wouldn't have that much of an issue, because not every direct-to-video action movie or shorter action movie, lower budget action movie that I watch has that either. But they don't pretend. They know what they are. They know that they're an action movie. They know that you get the main setup and you fucking get out there, deliver some action, and have some fun dialogue, stuff like that, like PM Entertainment does. PM Entertainment films didn't beat around the fucking bush. Recoil, even Land of the Free, I should give it another chance. Their films, Last Man Standing with Jeff Wincott, they didn't beat around the bush. They gave you what you wanted. You wanted action. You got insane action, like Hollywood, better than Hollywood production value action at times. Insane car chases. Literally movies of theirs where, like dozens and dozens of cars are getting destroyed and exploded. And in this film, you have a hint of that, what that could be. You have, like, I think it's a bit of a problem when the most intense scene in a movie called S.W.A.T. is a training sequence. And that is one big thing I can give to this film. I wish this film focused a bit more on tension. Like, I know not everybody loves it, but Executive Decision with Kurt Russell, John Leguizamo, Steven Seagal was in it a little bit. That film, the reason I don't hate it, and the reason I don't think it's like garbage, like I know reviewers who aren't big fans of it, hate it and everything. I can understand. I when I first saw it, I went into it wanting an action movie, and then what I got was an insanely intense thriller that, while it had some issues storytelling wise and with certain shots and stuff, and certain effects didn't look that great. Steven Seagal's CGI body flying in the wind. I still got an intense thriller. With this, the most intense scene for me, and I think a lot of people, because I looked on Letterboxd through the reviews and I was like, okay, how many people are mentioning the plane sequence? Because the plane sequence was genuinely intense. A training sequence is more intense than the action scenes in this. And why on earth would you make a movie called S.W.A.T when most of the S.W.A.T action, like, when most of the S.W.A.T action is just normal shooting guns at bad guys? That's not what SWAT teams are about. SWAT teams are literally like a special team brought in when nothing else is working, and they find a way around everything. The opening sequence is better than any of the action scenes later in the film. And I think that's down to, I was expecting a movie about a SWAT team and not just something like The Expendables where it's just shooting the guys. Like, I'm fine with that if that's what the movie was supposed to be, but it's literally a movie based on a show where it's about fucking SWAT teams. The whole thing of SWAT teams isn't just like, oh, they shoot the bad guy between the eyes. They use the guns as basically a last resort, right? Like, if any SWAT team people in the comments prove me wrong, but from what I've gathered from like seeing interviews with SWAT people, they don't just go in all guns blazing because that can easily get people killed. They try to find a workaround. They try to not injure the person who has the gun or is holding people hostage. They find a way to wound them instead. And in this film, in the second half, that just the plane doesn't happen. And I think that's a bit of a mistake. Also, the plane sequence, I wish the plane sequence had come back into it, because when I saw that the villains were trying to escape on a plane, I was expecting, oh, they're going to take a plane hostage and these guys are going to have to fix the mistakes that they made during the training exercise where one of them got shot. So in the training exercise, that means that person died. So they'd have to actually use the skills that they learned through doing that training exercise for real. I think that would have made the ending a lot more engaging and a lot more fun, a lot more intense, because instead of being cardboard cutouts and people with paintball guns, it is now real people. Real lives are on the line. That would have been such a better ending. But I think because Hollywood kind of has this obsession with, oh, we can't just have an intense movie on this budget. You can't have a thriller that costs $70 million. What are you talking about? We got to have action. But it doesn't even deliver on the action. From what I've heard, the original director for this was going to be Zack Snyder. And for some reason, I kind of want to see that version. I kind of want to see what he would have done, because apparently he wanted to make a grittier movie. And I think that would have been a better route. Because this film feels like it's trying so hard. It wants to be over the top. Like the Transformer movies that Michael Bay did, Bad Boys, stuff like that. But it doesn't have the balls to go for that exactly. It's, in all honesty, even I can give this film some credit. Again, the plane sequence, insanely well done. I wish it was in a better movie. the production values are there, except for the action. You have a pretty hot cast for the time. You have pretty decent camera work. You've got the you've got like, for the most part, a tight enough script, I guess. Even though there are certain characters that are a bit over dramatic for sure. But I think the main issue is this film doesn't know what it wants to be. It doesn't know if it wants to be an intense SWAT thriller about actual SWAT leaders and or SWAT teams and actual tactics, which I think would have been a fucking shit ton better movie. Or if it wants to be a balls to the wall, like cops shooting the bad guys kind of movie, which either one should have been able to work. But I think a big issue, again, is that maybe I think it's partially the PG-13 holding it back, but it's I mean, it's also that the characters are just so uninvolving. Like, I legitimately didn't care about really any of the characters in this. But a couple of things I want to mention before I wrap this up, because there's not really much for me to say. It's again, without the plane sequence, I would not recommend this film at all. I'm not even sure if I'm fully recommending it because I said barely decent. The plane sequence deserves to be in a better movie. But a couple things that I saw in this where I was like, okay, this movie is very of its time. There's a Linkin Park song. That's one of them. From the same album as Numb. And Bridget the Midget, the porn star that I'm pretty sure went to prison for something. The only reason I know who this is because she was in Tiptoes, the Gary Oldman Little People movie, where Gary Oldman played Matthew McConaughey's dwarf brother. I don't know what the fuck term to use. I don't care. She was in that. And Octavia Spencer, back when she wasn't as well known, she wasn't like a big actress at the time. She might have been in CSI, maybe. I don't exactly remember a lot about her stuff. I like her, but she's there in a like kind of blink and you miss it cameo. She's a character telling people like, "Oh, why are you holding up the stereotype of black people or cops taking in black people?" And I'm like, really? Was this needed? But other than that stuff, like, I don't hate that I watched this. I'm glad I got it out of the way. I hope the sequels are a bit more fun. But yeah, it's just one of those movies that's insanely unspecial, and well, one, it doesn't have original bone in its body, and I really just wish it had gone for a straight up thriller, like one of those thrillers that like keeps building up to a very exciting action climax, which I think would have still delivered what they wanted to. But yeah, it's not over the top enough to be fun, and it's not realistic enough to be like pretty decently thrilling. So yeah, that was my review of S.W.A.T. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie reviewer next door, out.